This conference will now be recorded.
All right, let's see what this says. It says it's being recorded, but I got a pop-up saying it's not. So we're going to pray it all is working. But everybody, welcome. This is Andrew Cole, president of the East Orlando Chamber of Commerce, and want to welcome everybody to the East Orlando Chamber's go-to meeting with our lost insurance coverage during COVID-19 Now What webinar. I do want to recognize our trustees who are phenomenal supporters of the chamber and stakeholders here in our community. And that's Advent Health, Avalon Park Group, Avalon Insurance Services, Duke Energy, Fairwinds Credit Union, GreatFlorida Insurance of Hunters Creek, Orlando Health, Suburban Land Reserve, and the Orlando Law Group. So I did want to get some pleasantries out today, and we appreciate all of you taking some time out of your busy day to listen in on how we can help with this. As I said, we are recording this, so we should be able to have this up for you along with all of our other resources and recorded webinars, which you can find on our website on the resource page under recorded webinars, and we'll have those here. But today I do want to welcome our guest speakers, and we have a couple folks here. We've got Tony Busby with GreatFlorida Insurance. We have Craig Rodrigue over here at CSR and Associates, Darla Cintron at Core Insurance Benefits, and Avalon Insurance Services with Joe Filice, who are all our experts for today. So with them, I do appreciate them coming on board, and I want to make sure that we've got everything going in the questions. It looks like Darla has jumped on now. But without further ado, I'm going to just let our panelists introduce themselves and state who they are and tell a little bit about what they do and what pieces they have that they offer. And we're going to just we'll start around the room and we'll announce everybody. Joe, we'll start with you. Tell us everybody a little bit about who you are and what services you provide for businesses and individuals.
Sure, appreciate it. My name is Joe Filice. I'm the owner and principal agent at Avalon Insurance Services. We're located here in beautiful Avalon Parks where our office is. We're proud trustees of the chamber, and what we do is employee benefits. So everybody, I think, in this field who's on the panel today does something a little different or a little different direction. We specifically deal with employee benefits. So we don't do property and casualty, so your boats and cars, and we do not do individual plans. So we're interested. We're thankful for our opportunity to partner and forward to doing this.
Okay, and Craig, tell us about you and CSR Associates.
Yes, my name's Craig. I'm with CSR and Associates, and actually we're independent agents, so we write business with all the major insurance companies in whatever area in Florida you're in. We are a little bit unique because we do write individual plans as well as Medicare plans. We do plans on the exchange with subsidies, off the exchange without, and we write group insurance and Medicare. So we're a little bit different because we kind of dabble in all of that, whereas most people kind of stick to one area or the other. So we're excited.
All right. And then I have Tony Busby with Greater Florida Insurance of Hunters Creek. Tell us about you and what you serve.
Well, we are proud trustees of the East Orlando Chamber as well, and we do, my wife and I own GreatFlorida of Hunters Creek, getting ready to open up another location in Lake Nona. We specialize, my wife and I, in the commercial insurance area of things. We can also do health and personal lines, but our real niche is the commercial end of things. We don't do the big group medical policies or anything like that. We do mostly property casualty.
And Darla, round out these, bring all this home with all our guys here, balancing out the group here. Tell us what you do here with Core Insurance Benefits. Oh, we lost her. We got video and lost her voice. All right. Darla, I don't know if you can hear me, but we have lost audio. If you want to call in, try calling in on the number, and we can do that, and you can keep your video going, but try calling in on the number. It's always amazing No offense to anybody that's here when we have technical issues. Getting all these people together, it's amazing that it works when it works, but always there's some pieces. So Darla, I'm going to come back to you. You'll be able to make some announcements here. Yep. Did you call in on phone? You're working on that? Yep, she's doing it right now, so hopefully she'll have that, and we'll see a caller come through. Stall here one more time here. At least there's backup plans for everything that we have. And working on it. Still seeing. Don't see the call coming through. All right, well, I'll send you the link here. I'll start here real quick. We'll start with one of the questions that has been provided. But we'll start here with Craig. What's happening with the health insurance amid the COVID crisis, and how are the insurance companies responding? Can you talk to us about that? And then feel free, anybody else on the call, to chime in on any of the knowledge that you have on any of these. And for anybody that has questions, please put them in the chat box and we will get to those questions also.
Sure, we can just kind of start the conversation broadband with what's going on in the health insurance market. As you know, this has been a very unique circumstance. There hasn't been a time in history, well, there's been one other time that we know of so far, that the government has actually closed businesses. And in doing that, it's put a lot of stress on the entire insurance market, particularly for employers and individuals. And so the response to that has been pretty amazing. United Healthcare, I was on the phone with them the other day, and United Healthcare is talking, and they're saying, well, stress came to doctors right away because even though we're in the middle of a medical crisis, nobody's getting medical care if you really think about it. All surgeries have been stopped, all primary care visits and urgent care and all these things have been shut down. And so United's talking about how they've advanced $2 billion in accelerated payments to try to help carriers pay bills in this time of crisis. All of the insurance companies, I'm sure Tony and Joe and Darla would all testify to this, are allowing people to postpone payments for the next couple of months until they can get their businesses reopened again. And so what you find in this marketplace is everybody's trying to help everybody out in order to survive this unique circumstance that we're in, where governments have proactively closed businesses and told us we can't even attempt to make a living at the moment. And so I'd kind of start there, see if they have some stuff to add to that, maybe Joe or Darla or Tony do, and we can talk a little bit more about that.
Same thing that he's talking about is happening in the P&C world. We've got people with personal autos that their payments are either being reduced or delayed. So it's across the board, it's happening. The only place I really don't see it happening with the discounts or extensions is the commercial auto and commercial building policies. But when it comes to personal lines, the insurance companies are being quite forgiving and trying to assist people as much as possible.
Joe, anything that you have to add on any of that from what you're seeing on the group plans, from what organizations or large insurance providers are doing?
Yeah, and as I said earlier, I specifically deal with employee benefits. Now, my smallest group goes down to 2 people. It takes 2 people to, 2 employees to be a group, but our larger groups are over 2,000 lives. And with that said, of the groups that I insure, I haven't seen a whole lot of devastation. We got to keep things in perspective too when we think of a national view. A lot of these industries that were struck hard, such as your restaurants, such as your bars, such as your gyms, they're not typical industries that offer employee benefits to begin with. Those aren't really pronounced in there. Now, Andrew, as you know, in restaurants, sometimes you get a management plan, but that's 10% of your entire population. So these type of employees haven't lost coverage, they've just lost their jobs, which is horrible enough, but they weren't insured through their employer in the first place. The trouble comes to them is if they had an individual plan, now how do it means to pay for that? On the group side, the groups are being very forgiving, as you mentioned earlier, Craig. They're having creative ways to, like you said, postpone payments, forgive payments. They're trying to keep everybody on the plan. It's a business to them, but they're also trying to do the right thing. They've been very forgiving and coming up with some creative ways to keep things going.
And actually, Andrew, I can add a little bit to this if you're interested. So employers have a big challenge in this, right? Because when we look at group insurance, one of the mandates to be eligible for a group plan is you have to have worked enough hours, right? I have to work 30 hours a week to be eligible. Well, as we're furloughing people and the employer's saying, I don't want them to lose their health insurance at a time of a health crisis, but they're not working enough hours to be a valid employee to be covered, then one of the questions we all had as agents is, are these people going to be covered? And so the carriers did a lot. They came back and said, well, yes, if you continue to pay the premium, we'll allow them to continue to be covered. If you have a dependent and say, I never insured my wife, but now I want to insure her because of the health crisis, they're actually allowing those employees to add dependents, allowing employees to come on to plans. They're waiving waiting periods. One of the other questions we had was, all right, if I have to terminate you at the end of the day and I can't keep you on the health insurance, then what's going to happen there? They're actually saying on the rehire, they won't make those employees meet those waiting periods. So the carriers have done a lot of really interesting things to try to help the employers out. They're even doing things like adding telemedicine at no charge. Many of you have probably heard, but for COVID treatment, if we look at COVID treatment and we say, well, what's it going to cost me to get treated? Nothing. What's it going to cost me to go to a doctor's visit? Nothing. What's it going to cost if I get admitted to the hospital or, God forbid, go on ventilators? All these things are now covered at 100%. So the insurance companies have gone above board to try to help out in terms of helping people get through this crisis.
So Darla, with that, I think we got you on the phone real quick. Are you able to hear us and speak?
I am. Thank you.
Great. So to add on that, and just real quick, we'll let you do a quick pleasantry. Tell us about you and what you do, and then I'll repeat the question for you just so that we can bring it back into the loop.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm Darla with Core Insurance Benefits, and what I do is I work with individuals, families, and small businesses, typically under 50. And I work across the United States. I help them with their health benefits. I work with life insurance and Medicare as well, and basically to help them cover their assets, make sure they're financially set in case of that unexpected health crisis.
So the question we had asked the group, and I just to reiterate, if you want to jump in on this, was what's happening in the health insurance amid the COVID-19 crisis and how the insurance companies are responding. So tell us from your angle, what is happening on that side?
Sure. Like they were talking about, many of the carriers do have the telemed. So telemed is very valuable for the clients to have. And the insurance carriers are waiving, from what I'm seeing. Now, Craig's the expert, and so is Joe on the big employer groups, but as far as the plans I'm seeing, the carriers are waiving the testing of copays, and they're treating the virus. If they were to be treated and have it, they would be covered with the co-insurance as a typical virus, a flu virus.
So that's a great lead in. Joe, Filice, tell us about telehealth. I know that you do a lot with that and have helped us with a benefit we offer our employees. What can you add to that?
Telemedicine's blown up over the last 2 months. I think obviously because of this crisis, everybody's heard in the news. It's been everywhere, the use of it, and some of it's been from good causes, and some of it is because that's the only option to be able to see a doctor. So again, all carriers are a business, and they're not a not-for-profit. They're going to make the money. They want to get you to see the doctor, and when you can't go physically out, they're going to start charging their plans a little bit to get you to go in there. So that's why a lot of these have been adding it. You're going to see a lot of telehealth moving forward, telemedicine in every aspect, not just from your general practice, which most of these plans are. But what telemedicine is basically the remote diagnosis and treatment of patients by means of telecommunications and technology. So it's basically being seen and not in the present same room. There's a lot of great plans out there. I think you can get a great plan. We have it put together where it's less than $20 a month. I think ours is $14. We do through Chamber. Includes everybody in your house. It's offered all general medicine. You never pay deductible or copay, and covers 70% of everything you go to the doctor for. For the rate and for where you're at right now, and be able to cover your entire family, you're not gonna be able to beat that for the bang for the buck. Every major insurance carrier is adding it into the plan if it's not already. They're trying to embed it, but in order to have United Healthcare's telemedicine, you have to have United Healthcare's insurance. So if you're not on their plan as an employee, you do not have telehealth. If you're carrying their insurance, you have their telehealth. If it's you and your spouse, you both have it. So there's some differences there that you still have to be on the plan. Other ancillary products are offering it as well, where you have to buy other products and it comes included. But I think it's a great thing. There's only one, to my knowledge, as of now, public company, that's Teladoc. And you can see their stock, it went from $53 last year to almost $200 this year. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more telehealth, but I'm a big fan of it.
So we did get a question that came in, and I want to make sure we can address everybody's, and this kind of moves in there. But if somebody has lost their job and they have insurance until May 1st, I know a lot of companies are offering COBRA now. It's very costly, almost could be over $600 per month. What products, or what do you recommend for folks that are going through this time where they may be losing their jobs or being furloughed, or companies are cutting the benefits to cut costs? What recommendations do you all have as experts in the field to cover these?
I can take that one, Andrew. So here's the thing. People that get furloughed or people that have lost their job and they have the option between COBRA and something else. The first thing they need to know is they only have 60 days to make that decision. Now, they'll have longer than that to choose the COBRA, but if they want to pick something else, most of that has to happen within 60 days. At a time like that, you want somebody that can look at everything. And so part of what we do is, number one, we have to get information about what the COBRA offer is, then look at all the alternatives on top of that to make the best decision. Depending on who they are, sometimes COBRA is the right choice. I just emailed a guy this morning. COBRA is the best option for him. But we got to walk through those options. With subsidies on the exchange, we have people getting plans that are literally $0 per month. And at a time that you've lost your job, that certainly looks much better than $800 or $1,600 on a COBRA. It's not the kind of thing where you can just tell somebody in this scenario and go, oh, well, you should definitely do X. What they should definitely do is talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about, that can walk through their options. That's a 5-minute phone call at most if they have the information about their COBRA. And there is definitely options available, and really good options.
Darla, how about you? Anything that you can add?
Yeah, well, what he said is definitely spot on. Everybody's situation is different. There are private options available as well. But as he said, if you're looking at not having an income, it is scary to have to pay a $500, $600 payment. So the best thing to do would just be to talk to your broker about it and say, what's my best option?
Tony or Joe, I know you guys work on the other sides of those and not into the individuals. Anything that you want to chime in on that with options for folks that might be out there?
It's basically the same thing that they're saying. I mean, if I was to do something with an individual, I would also look at, now that they don't have a job, would they qualify for Medicare or Medicaid? And then I would send them to Craig, because that's something I don't do. If they still had half an income and they're not going to qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, then you turn around and say, okay, let's do a life altering event in the marketplace and try to shop you like a personal policy or a family policy through the Obamacare marketplace.
And I do have one thing to add to that, Andrew. Today is the 30th. So if we speak with somebody today, they can get a May 1st effective date. And so that's a case where, unfortunately it's 2:30 on the 30th, but if they speak to somebody, they can get a May 1st effective date if they need it.
Okay. And then, I know a lot of us have gotten stimulus packages and pieces. So if I get a direct deposit or a check from the IRS called an economic stimulus impact, payment, and it's included as income. Therefore, it might implement or impact my financial assistance for healthcare coverage through the marketplace or Medicare. Does that impact that? How does that work for those that are seeing these stimulus checks that may be on the marketplace and things like that? Anybody address those?
Yeah, that is not included as income.
So what I would tell you is the thing about the marketplace is we don't follow, quote, normal tax rules. And the way I mean normal tax rules, I'll give you two easy examples. The first one being somebody will tell you, well, I can be married and file a separate return. That is actually true unless you're getting a subsidy. If you're getting a subsidy, you have to file a joint return and it's joint income. There's other things like Social Security. The accountant will tell you, well, it's not taxable until you're above X dollars. But that's not true when you're working with the marketplace. So one of the things we have to do is, I tell people all the time, I spend a lot of time studying tax law because I have to understand what is income. I used to think it was simple, W-2 income, but it's not. There's Social Security, supplemental Social Security disability, alimony. Was it before this date or after that date that you got it? Some of these things count, some of these things don't, child support, and on it goes. So what we're trying to do is understand what the income is to minimize the damage for people at the end of the year when they file their tax return.
So during this time, I'm shifting the gears a little bit, as we know that companies are furloughing their employees and doing some things, and sometimes they offer benefits and don't offer benefits. But as a business owner to their employees, what options do they have to continue coverage? And what can they offer to them if this is happening during this time?
Take that if you want. I mean, I think we touched on it earlier. The options are really up to the carrier's discrepancy, and they've been very loose with what's going on right now. So you first of all have the opportunity of how you're going to how you're letting go your employee. Are you terminating or are you furloughing them? Once you've made that decision, are you cutting back on their hours? As Craig mentioned earlier, you know, under the standard ways, you reduce the hours and you're no longer eligible for the major medical coverage or the group products. With the changes they made, and all the major carriers that we're dealing with have lessened that. So it's up to the employer in all essence if they want to continue their employees' coverage. Now, we have groups out there that do not want to do that or cannot do that, but we also have an overwhelming amount of groups that are doing that are furloughing people by keeping them on the benefits full time and continuing to pay the benefits even though they're furloughed. We have them doing that with contributory plans where they're still making their contribution and the employees still making their contribution if they're able. We also have groups that have contributory plans but are picking up the contributions on the employee side just so that they can keep the benefits. And as I mentioned earlier, we have groups that are furloughing people or letting them go, not doing anything with the benefits. So the first and foremost thing as a business owner, like anything else, you got to do what's right and what's best for your business. But the good thing is you have options and you have the choice to what to do. So what I recommend to those people is go talk to your employer or go to a business owner or large group or HR, whoever handles that at your job, and see what the company is doing and talk it through because there are options.
So a lot of people that, you know, when you're working, sometimes your benefit is with life insurance. And now that this might be going, you know, if you're being furloughed or let go, you're losing your life insurance. Which is better to have, a life insurance through the work or been independently bought, or why? Tony, you want to jump in on this one?
On that one. If you have a life insurance policy through your job, it's a great perk, but a lot of people don't realize that, you know, if you do lose your job, if you're furloughed, you could lose that policy. I've had several people that I actually approached years ago about doing life insurance. They've been furloughed for 2 months. They're now coming to me, I just lost my life insurance policy. I need to get a life insurance policy personally. You were right. I should have listened to you. Now, their rates are going to be much different now 2 years later, especially if they're in that middle 30s bracket where the prices tend to jump higher depending on the type of policy you're getting. Whether you're doing a return of premium, traditional term, whole life, 20-year pay, UIL, it just depends on what you're trying to purchase. but I always tell people it's better to have a personal policy. And if you get one through work, that's a great bonus, but don't ever rely on the one on work.
Can I give you one more reason you should call Tony and do that today? So here's the other thing that happens to you. We're dealing with a situation where the employer laid off a healthy person and maybe they can buy coverage from Tony. Let's go the other way. God forbid Craig's got cancer. His health has declined. He can no longer work because he's sick and he has a pre-existing condition. The life insurance from your work, sometimes you can keep it, but it becomes so expensive you couldn't possibly afford it, or you lose it altogether right at the very moment that you need it. So the general rule of thumb would be here, buy whatever life insurance your family needs outside of work. Whatever work gives you is an ancillary coverage, just like a bonus. Don't have your life insurance through your work. Have your life insurance outside of work. And call him today.
I bring a different view to that. I think you're both right in the aspect that you do need to take care of, because my answer would be both. You do need to take care of your individual side, but the reality of it is, you guys would admit your policies through your work, because they are temporarily and they are benefits, are much cheaper than you're going to get in personal policy. So if you're getting it offered through your work and they're paying for it, like most employer pay for it employer pay programs, then you take that. Obviously, it's a perk of the job. If they're offering supplemental coverage where you can get it, it is term life insurance, but as you know, it comes at a fraction of the price. It's also guaranteed issue. So if you do happen to have cancer or something like that, you can get in. And this is one of the only places where you can get a life insurance policy, having cancer or having a disease where it is a guaranteed issue. So I think you're absolutely right that you do need the individual policy, because that's the thing that's going to stay with you, and that's going to be in your long range goal plans. But if you're at a job and they offer you the life insurance, it's something to consider, just based on the fact of who am I covering, how much can I cover, and at what rate I can cover. And knowing that this is a perk of the job, like when you leave the job, you're going to lose your health insurance or whatever benefits you have. So it is a benefit of the job. That's why it's a benefit. But I think rounding it out, I think they're both important. But you're right, the individual plan is solid in your financial planning, and the employee is something you look at it through your employer if it's offered.
So here's I'm kind of like a couple questions that are here. So you got folks that are now have a major income change because they've been furloughed or cut in pay. Now that they've had this income change, trying to figure out, do they pay their premiums, and how does this handle into, you know, what are options for folks here? Can they handle updating their income? How do they do this if they've lost their job or had their income reduced on anything? What do you recommend on this, like to do?
So you're absolutely right. Anybody that has individual health insurance, if they've lost their job or they've had a change in income, they need to call their agent or call one of us that deals in this area. And it's possible they never qualified for a subsidy before. Now they do. Like I said before, we have people that their premium is $0, $20, $30. We're writing these plans every day. So for people in these circumstances, it can help them a ton to have the ability to keep their coverage. If they already have a plan and they did it in January, we can still change that based on new events. So they should definitely talk to somebody.
Darla, anything you want to add? Or Tony?
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about, you know, their kids are coming home from college, and you have to look at your policy and understand where your kid was getting coverage from to begin with. But many of the universities, even though they're sending the kids home, they are going to cover the students on that policy from the university. If they don't, they are not with the, if they're with the taxable household, they can be on the family's plan. And if they are older and they're not on the family plan, they can get their own plan. And Craig probably can speak to, and Joe, more about that as well. But they still can have coverage feasibly with their university. So they just have to check and see how the plan works.
Now, on another piece, if you're a condo or townhouse you own homeowners insurance. Are there any pieces when it comes to that you need to be concerned with, whether of how to cover yourself or making those decisions? I know we're talking about health, but what about that aspect? Tony, is there anything that you recommend for folks that are in this bind here that might be able to do something?
With the homeowners and the condo stuff, unless they're going to give you a reduction or something voluntarily, there's not much you can do. But if you go over to personal auto, there is something you can do, because obviously you're not driving as much as you normally do. So what you do is you call up your agent and you report a change in your mileage driving. A lot of people will drive 12,000 miles. During this, their estimated mileage may go down to 5,000 miles a year. So when you change that, in a lot of cases, you can save a little bit of money on the insurance policy. Not all the time, but in some cases you can. So that's one way to get around it and try to save a little bit of money if you don't have a lot of money coming in.
Good points. Moving into, I'm trying to check through these here. I think we hit a lot of those.
Can I jump in and I'll make a comment?
Sure.
Okay. So one thing that we know is available to people, and when they go through these, because we went through an explosion of the space shuttle some years back, and we experienced some of what all of these agents are talking about, from life insurance all the way through the health. There is a product out there that is called a temporary health policy, and it can be issued on the basis of usually 3 months renewed, and then 3 months and another 3 months. But it's a temporary policy, but it might just be the product that these guys may have available that will walk you through getting back employed, because you may be furloughed and you won't be hired back maybe until the end of June or maybe until July. It might just be the product you can buy and afford now that'll get you to that point B. So that may be something that these guys can discuss with you.
But Bob, what's the name of that policy or that type of policy? And the reason I ask is because that's not something I would do, but that's something I could refer out.
Yeah.
It's actually a temporary health policy, and it's offered by, I think even Aflac has it, right, Craig?
I can actually take that one. Those are the short-term medical plans, Tony.
Right.
And originally they were capped at just like 6 months, 90 days, somewhere around in there. And the idea was, I'm moving from one job to another. I need coverage. With the recent actions by President Trump, actually about 1.5 years ago, those short-term medical plans can be written for as long as 3 years. So not quite permanent coverage, but something much closer to permanent coverage. And when Andrew was talking about, do I take my COBRA? Do I do something else? Part of what we're trying to look at with people is not just plans on the exchange, short-term medical plans, MediShare, like Christian sharing programs. When you're trying to figure out solutions for people, much like you guys do in property and casualty, which I know very little about, we're looking at everything: short-term medical, MediShare, the Christian sharing programs, stuff on the exchange with subsidies. All of those things are options. So you're right, Bob. I should have mentioned that. Thank you.
And the thing too with those kind of plans, many of the brokers can mix and match. If someone is going to have an issue or want to keep their income, in check, their household expenses, they can be customized to meet their needs and budget. So they don't have to worry about, going over the top, but still have coverage until they get a secure plan as well.
And Darla, you've helped me out before with individual policies. I recommend you. They don't have to be ACA compliant either. So lots of people pick and choose kind of what they want, correct?
Correct. And I've talked to a lot of people, and what I do, for example, is I can say, okay, based on what you're looking for now, we could take even a teledoc plan and get and we've got wellness plans that can get their wellness exams, talk to doctors, and then put a critical illness with it. So if they did end up in the hospital, they would still have some sort of financial help during that time.
So kind of going into this and offering the plans, as a small business owner, what are there advantages to a business offering employee benefits to the employees versus having them purchase their own individual insurance off the street or off the market?
I'll start with that one. Yeah, you got to be kidding yourself if you don't think you as an employer offering benefits are going to attract and retain the best talent, especially in this market when everybody's coming back to work, and they're going to expect, if you're going to put them out of harm's way, that you're going to be offering some type of benefit. Now, does that mean full-blown traditional major medical? That does for certain companies, yes, absolutely. Doesn't go all the way down to your smaller groups. That depends on their budget and what they can do, but to be able to offer the benefits doesn't mean major medical. You can do what Darla said, you can do, a lot of groups are doing direct primary care plans now, which are kind of the concept she just talked about, where you're creating plans that are not ACA compliant. If you're under 50 lives, you don't have to offer employee benefits, which means if you offer the employee benefits, you do not have to pay for it. You can offer voluntarily, or you can offer on a contribution basis. So no company has an excuse now not to offer employee benefits, whether they're paying the charge, contributing to it, or it's 100% voluntary if you're under 50 lives. So in my opinion, no small business is going to be able to move forward without offering something to their employees.
And a lot of people, employers, if they have a younger, healthier employees, they can get a self-funded plan, which can feasibly offer them money back at the end of the year. So that's always a good option to look at too.
Tony, anything you want to add? Or Joe, go ahead.
So the thing about that is, you always, as in everything, no one solution is the right solution for everybody. So what we're finding with employers is, for instance, I've had 3 groups just this last week and a half alone that actually moved from group insurance to individual plans. Well, why did they do it? It's possible to do something called an HRA, where the employer can still give dollars to the employee to go buy an individual plan on the exchange. And what's interesting about that is, when we have conversations about people paying 70 cents a month for their health insurance or $20 a month for their health insurance, people often think bad coverage. It's actually the opposite. So for people that qualify for this kind of stuff, it might be $1 for the doctor, $3 for the specialist, 0 deductible, $500 max out of pocket, like phenomenal insurance. Now, that's got to be the right employer and the right group for that to be the solution. Other employers, other groups, we're doing self-funded plans like Darla's talking about. Other employers and other groups, you're doing fully insured plans like Joe's talking about. So you got to have the right solution. You just want somebody that's kind of bringing all of the options to the table and then helping you figure out what the right solution is. And Joe's right. It might be some of these ancillary coverages, like giving them the teledoc or doing some other things, some voluntary benefits.
Craig, let me ask you a question. You're finding these plans, but they have to qualify. What's the qualification to get, a $3 doctor visit or something you mentioned? What does that employee or person have? What's the qualification mean?
Well, people are eligible for subsidies on the exchange. So if you think a single person earning up to about $49,000 a year, family of 4 is over $100,000 a year. So this is not the poor that so many of us are thinking. Median household income in the state of Florida is about $46,000 a year. So like 60% of us qualify for subsidies. Not all of those people qualify for the phenomenal plans. You got to be at like a single person around $25,000 a year or less gets incredible coverage. Family of 4, I don't have my number in front of me, but and so these are not the poor that people are thinking. This is most of the working class that can do this. Doesn't always make it right, because if I'm a group with high wage employees, we're probably going to need to do group insurance. If I'm a group with lower wage employees, daycare centers, restaurants, bars, who knows what, all kind of jobs in Florida, sometimes the individual plans are the best option. We just want to try to figure it out.
Well, I say that they're usually the best options because, again, bars and restaurants traditionally haven't or nor do offer employee benefits. So it's not like you're changing from employee benefits. They've never really typically offered it because of that, because of the wages, and they don't dictate it.
Right. Yeah.
So on somebody that may be offering COBRA, and I'm going back to this one because it came up in a couple of the chats, but if somebody has pre-existing conditions and/or, I think we touched upon it with finding that gap insurance you kind of talked about, if you need something for a few months or this and that, because you expect that you're going to be rehired, or you know that you can get another job within that. And we do expect a lot of companies to bring back and to start hiring again once we kind of are moving forward on this. So if somebody has that pre-existing condition, or can they qualify for those gap insurances and things like that we were talking about earlier?
Depends on the first answer is absolutely. There's plans that are guaranteed issued that don't have any pre-existing condition exclusions. We write coverage on people that are getting chemotherapy treatments, cancer treatments, you name it. Everything you can think of, doesn't matter. So we can handle that. That stuff would be covered. What the right solution for them is, really, it's more of a one-on-one conversation about who are you, what's happening in your life, what medications do you take, what doctor do you want to see, what hospital are you concerned about, what treatments do we need. A lot of times I tell people, I'm asking you medical questions. It has nothing to do with getting you insurance. It has to do with me solving the problem for you when you get insurance. If I write you a health plan and it doesn't have the doctor you want or doesn't cover the medication you need, that's not the right solution. So people with pre-existing conditions don't need to worry about it. Call somebody like myself and go through the options and figure out the best solution. And Darla or any of us would tell you the same thing. It'd be like me asking Tony, what's the best homeowner's policy? Is it brick? Is it wood? Is it, so on and so forth. So there's solutions for them. Absolutely.
Anyone else want to chime in?
Not my wheelhouse.
Well, he's got it pretty well covered. I mean, it is what it is, and there is coverage out there for people, and I get that all the time with the medical questions, and he's totally on with that, because we have to make sure you get the coverage. We can sell you a plan, but it's not going to do you any good, and you're going to be pretty upset if you don't go to your doctors you want to see, or the hospital doesn't take it that's by your house. So it's all very individual.
So is the ACA the only way to go if you don't have insurance at this point, or you can do your own? I think that gets to be confused sometimes here from folks.
Well, again, there are the private options that can be written for 1 month on up to 1 day shy of a complete 3 years. So it all depends. But there's so many plans out there, so many different ways that health insurance can be customized to meet everybody's needs and their budget. So yeah, there are private options, and some of those options, depending if you have pre-existing conditions, no, you may not be able to get that particular plan, but there is a guaranteed issue option available for you.
I think one of the main things I'd tell people is don't confuse your ability to use a computer with knowing what a button means when you push it. And so often in my world, I see people make terrible mistakes because they think, I'm really good at a computer, I'll do my own healthcare.gov application, for instance, with no idea what the buttons mean when they push them. I'd no more try to buy my own auto insurance without the advice of a good agent, because I don't have any idea what this coverage means or that coverage means, or even what problems I'm going to have down the road. I think every agent on this call would agree. It's not our job to sell you insurance. It's our job to solve your problem. Sometimes that's with me. Sometimes that's not. Sometimes it's take your COBRA. But the good quality people, like the guys that are on this, and lady that's on this call, our job is not to sell insurance, it's to solve problems. And that's a very different approach than just, hey, I'm here to write a policy.
Exactly.
I agree with that 100%.
So I have run dry of questions that have come through. If there's any others, if you want to throw them in a chat, or if you want to unmute your phone or your screen, we can do that if you have any other questions you want to ask going forward.
Can I add something to the telehealth and go backwards a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I know that they were talking about telehealth as the health side of things, but going on the P&C side of things, I have several medical customers, and One thing that I did notice that some of the carriers are doing to help these people out is they're including or adding on an endorsement for the telehealth free of charge. So normally it would cost money to add that on. They're just saying, we're going to waive all charges. We're going to let them add it on so that they can stay in business and they're going to pay their bills.
Yeah, they're doing some great things. You're going to see that change the frontier moving forward. It's going to be implemented heavily, which should be pretty good and exciting.
Yeah.
Now,
You're gonna see a lot of
something that
everything.
people, sorry, something that I don't believe was brought up about people that never did have coverage, even if they lost a job, if their employer did not offer insurance, can they get insurance now? Does that qualify them for a special enrollment period? And that doesn't. What's that?
I said, I believe if you lose your job, you would have a qualifying event.
Yeah,
But if they never offered health insurance to them,
So you
if they've never had,
plan.
correct, they've never had health insurance, they can't get an ACA plan.
The short answer is yes, we can help them.
Well, true, they can get a short-term plan, but they wouldn't be able to qualify for a special enrollment on the ACA. A lot of people think that they can get an ACA plan if they've never had health insurance, but the federal government did not open that up for those people.
I would say have them call me. We can take care of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, I can help them too, but they just can't get an ACA plan
Yeah, I
unless
think what Darla's trying to say is if you lost your job and you didn't have insurance, you don't qualify to go in the market because you didn't lose your coverage due to the loss.
correct.
I don't think she's arguing who can write her, but good point, Darla.
I can get them an ACA plan. Call me.
Craig can do everything.
Sounds
He's
like
the man.
There's a lot of stuff I can't do, but I can do that.
All right, then we'll call you.
I can't do anything in a lot of areas, but I can do that.
Well, there's some great comments of folks, and we do appreciate from the folks that have been on the call here with things. If let's just go back through one more time through the folks that are here, and I'll pop up the screen. But if you want to say a few parting words on each one of you of what you have and how you can help with everybody, we'd love to just hear that. And unless if there's any other questions from the peanut gallery or if there's anything else that you guys want to share on that, we'd love to hear that. So we'll start with Craig. You want to leave a parting shot here?
What I would say is just thank you so much for having us on this call. It's been really fun, and it's good to see high quality people in an industry that I'm in. And so I really appreciate that. And I just want to say thank you very much.
And how about Darla?
Well, thank you. I apologize for my technical difficulties, but again, I do really appreciate the camaraderie with everyone here. And I've spoken to Craig, met him at his office, gotten some advice from him, had several conversations with Joe, and I really appreciate how we all support each other. And they've been in the business a long time, and I'm the newbie, but you know, everything they say is truly spot on. We are here to help our clients solve problems, and we all work together. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate Andrew and Dorothy as well.
All right, Tony, on the corporate and business side of things, what do we got from you?
Well, thank you so much for having me on here. Even though the main topic really isn't my wheelhouse, I hope I helped bring some perspective to the P&C side of things in today's conversation. My parting thing is when you do get a P&C policy, make sure that you actually go through the policy, look at your exclusions. A lot of policies that people didn't realize had bacterial and fungal exclusions, which means COVID-19 may not be covered if they shut their business down.
Wow.
I know a lot of the underwriters and companies right now are looking at that to address that and see if they're just going to make an exception and pay out claims for loss of business, loss of income, things like that. So really go over your policy with your agent and make sure you know what all of your exclusions are.
Good point. And Joe, you want to round this out? And
Yeah, appreciate you and Dorothy and all the good stuff you guys do. Appreciate being on the call. Craig, Darla, Tony, you guys are awesome. You're specialists in your fields. I'm kind of like Tony. This isn't really my specialty. I don't assist people or write people individual plans, but it's good to get the employer perspective. I think the most important parting advice I can give, no matter what your insurance situation is or your insurance need, I think everybody agree on this panel, is everybody's different. Every situation's different. So you need to ask a lot of questions, and you can't be bashful, and you need to ask enough questions until you fully understand. And once you get to that point, ask a few more questions, because that's all our jobs to answer them for you. So appreciate everybody. Appreciate everybody on the panel. Good luck, good people, and I appreciate working with you.
well, we thank you all for being valued members of the chamber, and thank what you do and for members and for the community here as stakeholders. It's so important, because having a strong community and having resources like this that we can push out to our members and to people in the community that need these services and opportunities to know and have opportunities to hear from you guys, to know that you're here and to get some of the questions answered is very important to us as a community engager here within East Orange County with that. And as just to share that with folks that are on the call, we have been pushing out lots of information for your business and for the community, whether you're looking for work, whether you are trying to get your business back up and running, whether it's trying to keep you at top of mind. We have lots going on. Please check us out at eocc.org. The calendar is posted with everything that's on there. Register for it for these webinars. Keep an eye on Facebook. We've got some things that we've posted even on there. There's pieces and deals and steals. So if you're out there and looking for something or need some help with those as a business and or as a consumer, a lot of our businesses are doing things to drive that. It looks like we'll be hopefully opening some of the businesses up for reopening. But remember that this COVID-19 is not gone. This does not mean that you can't go out and get it. You need to be safe, you need to be healthy, and follow whatever our leaders' guidelines are on that, because it's not going away at this point in time. There's no vaccine. So I just say that from me personally, is we want to see everybody healthy and well, and we want to get back to business and back to normalcy and back out enjoying our lives. But know that we still have to go through this and follow those guidelines, and it's very important. So my parting shot with that, we do appreciate that. The East Orlando Chamber is here to serve our community, serve our businesses out here. And we really appreciate all that you have done for us, especially you guys being here. And we look forward to having any of you on a call or another webinar coming up in the near future. So without further ado, thank you so much. We do appreciate. Check out everything that's there, and thank you for your membership, and thank you for all of that. I hope we've answered some of those questions for folks, and we'll be able to share this and share it out to anybody else that you know that might need this information. And feel free to contact any one of these for your business. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your afternoon. See you soon. Have a great
Thank
one.
you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.